Oh, I'm Jason Breach. So today we're going to do another Woodworking Wisdom project. So what we're going to look at, I have a large serving tray with handles, wooden one at home. I made the mistake of using it on a family event, and guess what? Got to make another one. So here we are. So we've got a bit of board for it. So we do the handles. We're going to machine it up. Then we're going to fit how the handle's going to go on. They're going to be routed in reality. So we're going to use a mixture of different things. Okay. Looks quite a simple project. In reality, it is. And we're going to go step by step through those little bits. All right. So we're going to go with our board. We've got a bit of sycamore, some cherry, and a couple of other little bits we're going to use as we go through. So we've got our bit of sycamore. Come to the planer, we're going to surface plane it, then we can thickness it. I'm already looking at this and setting things up. I'm very good at picking a board up and assessing what's going on. So if you look at a tree, every tree will tend to grow with a twist, rotational. So every board, as it dries, unless it's sticked very firmly and allowed to dry, it will twist very slightly. Sycamore, in the UK, we tend to end rear. It stand on edge, upright, so therefore it will dry, but the risk, unless you have quite a bit of weight on the front, again it will twist. So this has got a little bit of rock corner to corner, a little bit there, not a lot. Even on that short length, this is about 20 inches long. If I flip it over, this side seems worse. Okay, that's really weird, but I'm already now judging which way where I want it. If we flip it back over, if I've got all that rock, I'm going to fight with that, trying to get it through the machine. My hand pressure will alter a little bit. That'll cause it to move. So on here, that side's definitely more stable. These little knots I've got in the middle here possibly playing a part in that, how it's dried. So those little things can make a difference. Other thing I've just checked is the fence is square on the machine. So therefore, when I come to do the edge, if I want it, and I want an edge just to work off, we know it's nice and square. We've set up the bridge guard, legal requirement in the UK. My hand will drive over, but I'm going to keep my pressure on as I go through. So hopefully it's given you a bit of an understanding on our planer. We're going to do the thicknessing or the surface plane and then set up for the thicknessing. That's pretty good. Tiny little bit on this corner. We'll get there in a second. Quite nice. Sycamore's quite nice to plane up. The other two bits, a couple of little bits of cherry that are going to do the handles. We might only need one. We might be able to cut it in half. But at the moment, for the sake of doing it, just going to machine that up. So that's our material. We're going to set the planer now to thicknesser mode. Right, okay, so we're just setting up for thicknesser. We have spiral block planer in here, so lots of little tungsten carbide tape. From memory there is 56. Gives us a much better finish than what we get off a normal planer. Okay, it's quieter, breaks the particles down, less aggressive. There's lots of benefits to this. So if you've ever thought about having spiral block planer, oh definitely, I'd never go back to 3 blades. So we've got all those little teeth doing the cuts. So let's put our hood over. Finish getting it set up. We've set up the planer to thicknesser mode so we can actually get everything nice and parallel. So I didn't use this last. I don't know who else has been in. Obviously, we've got different people that come and use it. But likewise at home, if you leave it static, you start to get a few issues. So one of the major issues, definitely with the board material you put through, the resins off that wood will start to bond to that table. It will start to stick a bit. It will grip the work and hold it, slow it down. So the work won't pull through nicely. So before we do anything major thicknessing wise, it's worth giving that bed just a simple clean. So we can use something as a resin cleaner, spray it on, wipe it off, get rid of all that waste. Then we want to help it glide. So we're going to use a little bit of machine wax. This will protect the bed, but will also help the work glide in. So what we're going to do, put it on. Then clean bit, we can just buff that up. That's that simple, okay? But it'll really make a difference. So be it planer, you can put on there, your table saw, your bandsaw, your lathe bed, definitely worth doing. So we've got our material, got our sycamore we've got to finish machining. Let's just drop that out of the way. Got the cherry bits. Now this is the bit for the handles either end. So before we thickness it to thickness here, the board thickness, let's actually go to the edge because we can feed this through. With it being wider, it's more stable to feed through on that delicate little edge. So quite an important part at this stage. That brings the table up, so now we're ready, we can do the edges. So when we come to feed them in, going to hold them. Left hand will sit on the top, right hand here is underneath. I'm actually lifting up just a little bit as I feed in, it'll grip the in-feed roller and pull it through nicely. Okay, we've got our bits of cherry, they're machined down to a width, we know we can rip them in half if I need to. Now we've got the main board. Now this is a lot wider, so we're going to take more material off. It's a heavier cut in reality because of the width. So we need to be a bit more careful now and look at where we possibly got thickness. Now we know the board had a bit of twist, so we're going to start measuring 28 there, this end 30, 31. 27, so we've got a thicker corner at the moment. Now we're doing one board, this is easy. When you're doing a batch run of 15, 20, it becomes harder. You definitely got to pay a bit more attention to it. So I know the cherry is thinner, so let's bring up and set our cut. For a second. So what have we done? We've thicknessed it down to maximum thickness I can get. I've got 22 millimeters. We've also done the cherry. So everything now equal thickness. So these are going to go on the ends. And probably going to be in half. So I'll probably use one of. We'll have a look at which one looks nicer. Ends aren't bad at the moment. They're pretty good. So next stage we need to look at the ends of the board. I think really, we're going to go off the planer, we can set back to square, we're going to go to the workbench and look at the bits then. Alright, so we come back onto the bench, it's just easier to lay it out and show you what we're doing. So we want to fix obviously the handles either end. We're going to do a router joint for that in a second. But in fact I want to put it across the router table, I want to make sure that everything is dead square where the boards are meeting. Either end. This one, Got a little bit of play. Doesn't look a lot. Most of us, oh, will it matter? This end's actually not bad. It might be the bit of cherry's got a bit of cut. We'll have a look. But I want to make sure they're dead straight. Now, we can cut them on the miter saw, but I doubt my miter saw will cut exactly 100% straight. So, I'm going to go back to a bit of hand tool stuff. So, let's just clear those. I'll just set up and we'll get you back in. So, I've set up the shooting board. So, going back to some hand stuff, I've got low angle plane, got a board, quite a wide width to shoot. But, let's have a quick look. Oh, that's good. Just in there. So we can put our plane on. I've set up, trying to take nice light cut. This is a wide board to shoot, so it takes a little bit of effort. Nice and sharp. Coming across. A bit on the back to go, which I'd expect a little bit. I'd expect a little bit of deflection. See what's going on now. Got a little bit of a hollow still. Okay, what we're trying to do, get everything to meet nicely. Nice and straight both ends. That looks pretty good at the moment. So, got our boards. Next stage, we're going to set the router table up. So, the aim on here to have like a slide dovetail joint. The board I've got initially was just screwed and glued, but if it's screwed and glued you get any whip movement, it's going to show. Also the fact if it's screwed and glued, it can cause the board maybe to crack. It's restricting it. So if we do a slide dovetail, it will allow that to move. I can still do 2 screws with pocket holes to hide them, but they will be slotted slightly just to allow it that little bit of room. Okay, so our next stage really is to do our slide dovetail. So we put our sycamore bit in the bench. I've just got pencil marking gauge. What I'm really doing now, I want to find the centre of this. So I'm setting it up, I'm working off both sides just to see if we're central. I want a line, that's pretty good. I can just do a little line just around the corner so you guys maybe can see it a bit more. So I want to set up my centre height to give me a guide. Okay, so we have our line all the way up through. Now, we just grab it. We're going to do dovetail joint. We'll do the groove and the dovetail up through here. So we're going to use router table. But actually that's quite an aggressive cut to do just with one cutter. Alright, puts a lot of stress on it. It causes problems with the waste because the waste is embedded within that groove, that pyramid type shape, can't come out. So our first cut's actually going to be something like a slot cutter. Well, you could go with a straight cutter, but again it's a lot of stress on the cutter. A slot cutter going to act like a little saw blade, so it'll cut a groove out up through. That'll take some of the waste out. Then from there we can change the cutter, go to the dovetail. So by having our centre point, we've got somewhere to work now, so we can see where our cutter's going to be and we want to get it central to that. So I've set the table up. We've got the slot cutter in, I've put the fence in position. So let's try and explain what we're doing. Slot cutter, we're going to create a groove. Alright, that's going to create the channel and then do the dovetail cut after. We only want to be about 4 or 5 mil deep. So from the fence to the tip of the blade, I can have a maximum of about 7 mil as a height gap on the groove I want to make. This is only 5 mil. So we can bring the cutter a bit lower, I can turn the board over. So I can work one side, then flip it over, do the other. Right, so we can work on both sides to give us that groove width we want. The slot cutter's got more inherent strength than you will get off just a straight cutter. So easier to do. Bigger diameter does mean I need to reduce the speed down. So little things like that all need paying attention to. So we've set it up for there, for where we've got our slot cutter in, then we're going to bring the featherboard in. So I think we'll get you in, just do a show close up of that. So we've got our groove, we've cut that. Next stage, we're going to change the cutter. We're going to do our dovetail. Alright, so this is taking all the waste out, then we can do our dovetail cut in here. So we're just going to reset the router table for that. And we'll change the cutter. So I've changed the cutter, we've now got the dovetail cutter in. I've set the height so it's just going to clear the bottom of that groove. And by clear the bottom of that groove, we're going to be upright. So, it'll be there. I've then carefully looked to make sure we've got it central, but actually on this we're going to turn the board round anyway to make sure we're dead central. That's quite important. Alright, so we're going to have to flip it about to there. Other thing I can use again, we can have featherboard in here, create a little bit of pressure, push it up against the fence, down on that bottom bit, make sure it's there. It also stops my fingers getting in there. That's a good important part. Okay. Over the last little bit before we do our cuts, I'm going to have bit pine button fixed on there, not critical, but it just gives me something a bit more reassuring to keep things square and stop it wiggling higher up. Now let's put that one out there. It's going to clash with the extractor, so I'll just alter, make sure we can go all the way through. That looks better, and then just double checking everything. I closed all the fences up, so I want to make sure they're locked, tighten everything up. At this point, just checking that we're set on the table nicely there. We can go through. That clamp just collects a little bit there, so let's pinch those up. So now we're set for that cut. Alright, so we've got that dovetail cut. Let's press go. Nothing happens. Oh yeah, got to plug it back in. So good tip to change the cutter, unplug the router. Alright, good little thing to do. So, glasses on, earmuffs. So we brought it back to the beginning here. We've done the dovetail cut. You've seen the dust come out that groove when we pushed it through. So we don't have that groove initially, all the shavings trapped inside. We showed you brushing the shavings out with my fingertips, that's trapped in there. But we've got rid of half of that waste. So imagine if it's all there, it bungs it up, it will stop the cutter, it will cause more burning, you won't get a clean cut. So the slot cut beforehand is so important. The bit of batting, does it really matter? You're trying to add stability to this to make sure it's nice and equal going through. Yeah, you might manage it, but actually by fixing something, a couple of little clamps onto there, first of all, I can push that batten rail with my hand. It also stops it bouncing on the fence, so it makes it just that little bit more accurate. And you've all got clamps. You've probably got a bit of pine batten. So simple to do. But that gets us our nice little dovetail on the ends. Both sides, so now we know it is dead central. Next little bit we're going to do, we're going to look at doing the cherry ends for the handles. So we can use the dovetail cutter exactly where it is height wise at the moment. We're now just going to reset the fence. So we've moved the fence forward. I've opened up the fascias so I can get in between, so the cutter's back between there. Clean the dust off a little bit. Did this weird thing, and I think you probably got it on camera. I bent down, I've looked a lot on the fence here, and I'm looking down through, just to see what's going through. I've got the cutter, so I've turned around with my fingertip, just coming out that bottom point. So in reality, from the bottom edge of the fence is where that dovetail cutter comes back. So I'm just at the moment cutting the top corner. Going to do a little cut to start with. We can always take more material off. It's more tricky putting more material back on. So with this you need to be a little bit patient. So we've set up, we know the height is the same. We can use the featherboard again. Push it in. That's there. A little bit of pressure on the bottom in line with where the cutter is, that's great. Double check our fence. Clean a bit of the dust. I think we're there. So, we know first go this shouldn't fit. We're going to do both sides and then we can cut this in half. So I'm going to work on all four faces first cut. Bit different at the moment, we've got a bit of work to do, but we created a divide line, we've taken a bit off, now we can take a bit more material. I'm just going to adjust one side of the fence, move it back a bit. Let's try that. Now we've moved back a bit, need to adjust the featherboard. At the moment, still too big. So, on the back edge again, I've just moved the fence back. I've adjusted the scale mark so I've got a clear marker idea how far back I'm moving. I've gone 1.5 mil. But actually, we're coming halfway down the fence, so we're probably taking something like a 3/4 millimetre cut. But we're going to do both sides, so I've got to be patient on this. It's easy to go too far, take too much off, and then it becomes more problematic. So with this, a little bit will be good. So we're building our dovetail shape nicely. And like I said, got to be patient with this. I want it to fit quite nicely, firmly. It's got to be a little bit patient. Too easy to go too mad. So again, this end I can unlock. I've got a fine adjuster on here so I can wind it back. Come back about 1 millimetre. Okay, now One of those weird and wonderful questions I always get with a router table. Doesn't the fence have to be square to the table? It's a round cutter. So as long as we hit it where we want, in this case it doesn't matter. If we were using the T-slit with anything and pushing it through, then yes, it needs to be parallel if we're working off the fence. For this cut, we could have the fence coming right across the table, corner to corner. It won't affect it. We're hitting a round cutter at the place you want. From here, I'm just coming back a little bit. So I've said about a mil. We're taking about 3/4 of a mil, hopefully, on the cut. But both sides, I'm still taking probably 1.5 mil off. So I've got to be a little bit, right? A little bit patient. Right, so having done that last pass on the dovetail, we're definitely getting more shape. Nice and controlled, we're getting a cleaner finish than if you just hit it with one heavy cut, which is going to cause the cutter to bounce a little bit. It's 1/4 inch shank, it'll flex a little bit. Even if you've got 1/2 inch shank cutter on this, it's narrower where the dovetail shape comes out of, or is formed on the cutter. So that'll cause vibration. So light cuts, taking that back. A nice shape, controlled, not struggling to push it through. Let's have a quick look. So I'm going to go to my board up on here. Now I know you guys won't see this for a minute. Just want to see what's happening. Now at the moment, that'll fit, but it's really tight. Do want a tiny bit off. Now to start with, I'm going to do something a bit weird. Let's just change our glasses. Put them back on. I'm not going to adjust the fence at this stage. Just going to take one more pass with where it is, see what happens. You're going to find we take a little bit of material off. I'll even leave the extractor off just for this. Tiny bit. Okay, still just that fraction too tight. So what was I hoping there? You'll get a little bit of spring back on the material when we cut it off the cutter. So we can remove it with that second pass without adjusting anything. Back to our adjustment down here then. We want to come back just a little bit. Let's try that. Didn't move very much. We took something. Right, we're getting a little bit of dust. At this point, if you watch carefully, I turn the board over. I haven't done the opposite side yet because is that going to be enough? It's very close. If I push it straight, will be good. So let's try that other side. Okay, nearer. Okay, that goes in, but really firmly still. Right, so last little pass, alright? So, alright, let me just do so. We know it fits really tight. I'm not going to adjust the fence. Fantastic. Okay. Let's just move. I'm pretty sure I can pull that all the way across. Might not be able to do it physically by hand. I might get a clamp, we can pinch it. I've got to cut this in half first to make the two handles. So I want to cut that down the centre. We can then fit them, get them to go in. Now the whole idea of this is this will stop the board cupping. Now one thing that might be causing an issue at this stage is the board might cup a little bit. If you're doing a batch of them, try and make sure you keep them weighted or clamped together if you're not working on the board straight away to stop things altering. Likewise, when we use the batten on the fence, that's about trying to keep it straighter again as well. So where we clamped it on, that's good. So I'll cut the bit of cherry in half. I'm going to do that on the bandsaw so we can do that quick and easily. Don't know if you need to see that, it's a bandsaw cut, straight line. So I'll rip it in half, I'll bring it back and we'll try and get them in place. So we've been and cut that in half. Let's just push this down. I've got a couple of pencil marks I've just put on, so I need to realign them. And you can kind of see still fits nice and firm. That will slide. I'm going to do the handle holes now, so we're going to do that in here. On the back edge, a little bit of masking tape, help reduce the breakout, I hope. So push that down, stick it on, okay. I've drawn out a length here, 100mm, 4 inches, okay. And I've got my centre liners obviously there, so we know we're central on the board. We don't want them off too much or it causes a weight imbalance, so more central will be good. Then we're going to drill a circle and a circle. I've got 40mm set up, so I can drill that out. We're going to do the same each end, and then we've got to do a bit of a cut out in between. So I think we'll go to the pillar drill, drill our holes. Back over to the bench quickly. So we've got our 2 cuts, circles drawn out. We want something to link them together. I want something as a curve. That could be enough. Play around with the pencil thing. I can do from either side. Not bad. We could try doing steeper one up in here. Look. So if you do this, can you ask permission of whoever owns the plates first? Okay, so this bit we can cut out, so I've got to do the same down the other end. Let's just turn that round. I reckon we're going to go with that like that. Again, just really lining up with the edge of the hole. Oh, pulled it back a bit quick there. That's better. We can cut that out. Swing it round so you guys can see a bit more. Let's just turn that round. It's easier for me to hold down here as well. So position it. That's good. Okay. So from there I want to cut these out. Now, well, actually you can do this on the bandsaw. But you've got to get the blade in here. Yeah, I know. So we can take that apart again. We can go to our bandsaw and we can cut off that little bit. Get the little bit out here. Do the same the other end. Then we bring it back together. I can hand shape that in a little bit just to blend in by hand as well. So the cleaner the cut, the less handwork we've got to do. So we're doing this as a one-off board. If we were going to do a batch run, I might make up a template out of a piece of plywood that I could fit on the end. I could still drill the holes. Then I'd use probably a milling style cutter which is bearing guided, so I can run off the template to start. We'll do the first cut, gradually get lower and lower. The bearing will rest on what we've already cut. So fantastic. That way I could actually cut and clean that up so I could batch run them quickly. To about this is one, I'm just going to bandsaw it. So we're going to cut just on a line. So we've got 1/2 inch wide blade, should be able to get in there. I can get into the back of the hole. To there. So let's bring that over, let's get the bandsaw up. So we cut the little bits out, got more of a handle shape, got a little bit of cleaning up just to do, nothing drastic. And they also want to do 2 screws that are going to pin it in, hold it, stop it sliding. The dovetail will obviously stop it cupping. So screws, we want to do a hole, but I also then want to cut a pallet plug to go with them. So we're going to drill a hole on the outside edges out on the waste bit. I'm going to do a plug cut, so the grain colour and everything will line up. So I'll do a plug cut out here, and we're going to drill our hole. So I've just marked the position for those 2 holes. So we're going to take our handle back off. A bit easier this time because it doesn't need to come all the way across. And then we're going to go back to the pillar drill. We can set those up and get them drilled. So I'm going to drill the 10mm hole first, then move it over to there, and then I'll do the other one. Then we'll change the cutter and the drill bit, and we'll come to the other side. I've set the depth on this as well, so we know everything's right. I've got it dead central. So I got drill hole, plug, pilot hole all the way through for the screws. So at this stage we've got our drilling holes done. We've got a little bit of clean up to do on here, but it'd be better to put the whole handle shape together and then we can clean it up. So we're going to use a little bit of glue. I want to try and hold it in that place. So really on that dovetail. And yeah, I know this is cross grain against long grain. The dovetail has stopped this capping. So I hope I've got that dovetail just loose enough now that it will slide in. So we don't want loads and loads of glue. So trying to spread it out. In one side now, and here and now it'll drop in. Got to come across, that's good. Not got a lot of anything here. This is more about trying to stop anything moving about whilst I do the screws up. So the holes we've got in the handle are quite loose. The screw will drop through there nicely. And pull this down. And we're using something as a washer head type screw. Right, not countersunk, we're using that plate. If you've got countersunk screws, you could possibly put a small washer on them. That will allow things to move just a little bit. Got one. chase the dovetail. There it is. That's on. Okay, starting to look a little bit more tray-like now. Now we have the hole in the end that we've said about with the plug. I want to lose that, so I'm going to make this a bit more organic now. Just draw it out freehand. Don't like that corner. I've got to look at where my plug is there. So that's got to come back too sharp. That's going to leave a hard edge, a bit too much. Now this is really about playing around with what you like. That might be nicer. This side's really easy because we've actually got the bark edge. So how about we use some of that? I've got to clear my plug, so we know we're going to come into there. This bark edge is pretty square actually, so I quite like that. I've got to take the bark off here. So what we've done now is mark on where we're going to cut. I'm going to cut this shape out. So we'll go back to the bandsaw, I can cut that out. Give us a bit more of our board, something a bit different, and then we can start to do all the cleaning up. So we've cut our board out. We've tried to give it a bit of a, if you like, organic shape, keeping that curve. We've still got a bit of the bark edge here. We're going to round this over in a second. All right, next thing really to do, finish off these holes. So the bits we've just cut off the end, I brought back. We can use those. So let's just put the board in the vise just for a second. This is going to look a little bit brutal, but there's one. Trying to cover it on the front with my hand, not so you guys can't see, but to stop it firing across the room. That one. There you go, so you've got our plugs. We want a little bit of glue. Bring that up, look. Next thing, trying to look at the grain direction and line that up. Good. Already checking the grain on that one, there it is. A little bit of glue. That way around there. Look, it didn't quite go. Let's bring that back just a bit. What we're really trying to do now, just lose that bandsaw cut. That's not too bad. Flip that one over. bit longer on these, so carefully work around it. Temptations to push too hard with the chisel. Just clean up that bandsaw cut that we left when we divided the two bits. So I'm stood the wrong side, so we turn it round. Okay, good, so that gets those just levelled in. Next thing now, I've just got to clean up the handle holes. Probably some abrasive by hand, and then I'll set up the router and we'll route the edges. So I'm just going to clean up these holes and we'll get you back. Right, so we fitted, cleaned up here. We're now going to shape the outside, want to soften it. So I've changed the cutter in the router to a round over, so we can round the edge over. I put the fence back in, which is a bit weird, but it allows me to sit on something and then come over to the bearing, which is on the top of the cutter, and then we can move down through it. Okay, we're going to go all the way round, even on the straights here. Hopefully we should be able to come along there nicely. All right. At the moment I've set the cutter lower. So therefore we're going to do this as 2 pass or maybe 3 pass to get to that end result instead of one heavy big hit. Might take you a couple of minutes longer, but hopefully less cleaning up. Alright, that's the major thing. So goggles are on. Let's put the extractor on. Cutter on there. So we've done the first pass, we've just brought the cutter up, we've done the handle cut out holes, so you can see we drop on, we can work round it. Still got the fence in because that's creating some extraction for the finer dust, so that's good. Just brought the cutter up, we're going to do that second pass, we'll do the handles first, then reposition the hole for the fence so we can bring that back in. So we've done all our edges. The next thing I'm going to do, really going to sand it. Alright, so I get the orbital sander out, we start cleaning up. And I think we'll show you when we finish. You don't need to see a sander. Alright, so we'll do a little bit of sanding in a minute. You can see a brief bit and then I'll work up through the grades. So, when you last saw it, we were just starting that sanding, so I've sanded it all, hand sanded the curves, blended that all in. Right, so we've softened all the edges, then we've given it a coat of the citric oil, rubbed it back again. Right, so I've even done a wet sanding process with that, and then just buffed it. We'll let it dry, but hopefully it looks pretty good. Quite a large sort of tray. Doesn't have to be that big. You can make it whatever size you like. I love that little dovetail detail on the side. And I know that's going to do something functional as well and stop it twisting and cupping. So all those little things really add up. Something very unique. So hopefully you've enjoyed something a bit different, gone back to using a router table. Most people, you might have a router table. It doesn't have to be as elaborate. You might have your jigsaw instead of your bandsaw. Pillar drill, you get away with cordless drill. So there's different things you can use. Don't think you've got to go with exactly what we've dyou but hopefully it's inspired you maybe to have a go. Do something a little bit different as a chopping type board or serving tray. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, share it. Go to the notifications. You'll see what we've got coming up. More things coming up which will hopefully inspire you to have a go. Thank you. We'll see you next time. We'll be working wisdom.